is joined by Johan Schoeman, the General Manager of the Blue Bulls Rugby Union. Johan, thank you for joining us today. Let's start off with the BBRU was awarded the best developmental programs in rugby in South Africa at the recent SA Rugby Awards. Let's talk a little bit about that, because at the moment development in South Africa is a contentious point for a variety of reasons. But there is no doubting the fact that we need to develop the next generation of Springboks, and that's what we always are looking towards as a rugby playing nation. So let's talk about what exactly does the BBRU do in terms of development.
And thank you very much for the privilege to speak to you today. I think it's a very important question that you've raised there, and what I would like to say is that we have got a very well structured program, well devised, dedicated president and a CEO that's supporting us for rugby development, and that's a very important aspect of our progress and our success, as well as very well thought out strategic plans for the Tshwane and Limpopo areas. So we do specific programs on the access to rugby for young developing rugby players in our schools and in our communities. We look after capacity building programs for the coaches and the referees. And we obviously have got a big challenge at this stage regarding identification, development of talented rugby players with special emphasis on black rugby players, which is an issue in the northern parts of South Africa.
Infrastructure is necessary for all sports to be able to be played, not just rugby. What are the problems that the union faces in terms of development?
I think one of the major issues at this stage is dedicated volunteers and coaches and officials working towards developing the game. We do have ample staff within the ranks of the Rugby Union here and in Limpopo. But one of the challenges are dedicated outside role players like coaches and teachers and referees, especially in our communities, because it's usually in non-traditional areas where we go into for rugby. So that is an issue. The next one, infrastructure, is definitely physical resource regarding facilities, playing facilities. With grass, we have not got enough rugby playing fields or rugby fields in the communities. And if there's 500 kids in the surrounding schools that play rugby on one rugby field, you can think that it's not worthwhile. So that's a big issue that we have, and a challenge for government, obviously, to assist us to gain more facilities.
The public will be well aware of programs like Supersports Let's Play and the South African Rugby Legends VUCA project. What else is there going on in South Africa in terms of rugby development?
Those are the major programs that we do follow within the structures of SA Rugby. We obviously also do have quite a big rugby program for women rugby, girls rugby, and a 16 and 18 program that we are assisted by the Department of Sports and Recreation. And we've got youth training centers for the talented girls and also for the women seniors for developing them as well. And then obviously out of that, we capacity building, the training of coaches and referees is a very important program that we do drive with the assistance of SA Rugby, especially with the funding that we do have. And they are being regulated by World Rugby with their World Rugby development programs in capacity building. So there are quite many aspects, and infrastructure that you need, and administrative, compliances that you have to comply with when you do rugby development programs. But those are the basic ones that we do.
The BBRU covers Tshwane, which is a very large metropolitan, as well as the Limpopo province. How does it work in terms of splitting up resources and to be able to have fully functioning developmental programs in both areas?
Well, as I said, we are very well supported by the Blue Bulls Executive Committee. They do understand the importance of rugby development. So we do have access to ample staff. I think we are the most capped staff for rugby development in South Africa. We've got 4 cluster managers in Tshwane, and a referee manager, and a manager for training education, and then we've got 3 cluster managers in the Limpopo, serving the 5 regions of the Limpopo as well. And I can assure you that with those type of staff members, infrastructure, we can gain the success that we did. My big worry is that the majority of our neighbouring rugby unions And big rugby unions do not have ample human resources in that regard, and that's maybe why they are not doing so well at this stage with rugby development, because they're understaffed.
Earlier you mentioned that one of the issues that the union faces is the fact that there's limited volunteers. If somebody wanted to volunteer, in what capacity would they volunteer and how would they join up?
Well, it's very easy, and we would really love it if we can get more volunteers. Volunteers in the category of coaches, referees, club administrators, zone coordinators, match coordinators. They can directly contact the Blue Bulls Rugby Union, for myself, Johan Schoeman, the Department of Game Development, and we will easily sign them up to assist us regarding the development of the game, especially in our underprivileged communities, where we need a lot of assistance at this stage.
The next question is a two-part question. The first part is, development is not something that starts today. These programs have been in and around South African rugby for a while now. How long did it take for the union to get the developmental programs up and running?
Then it was easy about for 20 years. I think the focus was totally wrong in the beginning, and we must stress it, that as we've mentioned just now, that rugby development or sports development is not only starting in the black communities or the underprivileged communities. Rugby development is a wide concept where you have got rugby development in your inner city, in your rural areas, as well as in the Limpopo areas. You've got rugby development for women and for senior men, for clubs, for community clubs, and for capacity building, high performance, talent identification, development. So when we talk about the term rugby development, it's a wide term, and it is not only for our communities or underprivileged communities. We've got, for an example, a lot of black people that have moved into the inner city that are now in the so-called developed schools, where there are ample facilities and staff and coaches, and where you obviously will have maybe better access to rugby development and rugby programs, and you will have a much easier type of a player that you'll get through to the ranks of, for the Blue Bulls Training Week and Academy Week teams and stuff like that. So it is a wide concept.
It goes without saying that development costs money. Where does the BBRU get its funding from?
Well, we have got different role players. We do have funding that we are provided with from the Blue Bulls Rugby Union. We do get outside funding from the Blue Bulls company as well. SA Rugby provides funding. We get funding from the Lotto. We get funding from South African Rugby Legends Association, World Rugby, and Let's Play from Super Sport. So there are various role players that do assist us, and obviously through the Department of Sports and Recreation as well, Gauteng, which is also a major contributor in this regard.
As we end off, Johan, there's no point in developing anything if there's no positive feedback. What has the feedback been? Have you guys seen marked changes in rugby in the areas that you cover?
Then that's a very important question. I must state to you that we do have a major challenge in our underprivileged black communities because of the reasons that I spoke to you about just now. The facilities and dedicated volunteers regarding that. We have made the decision that less is more. So what we are doing now is we are concentrating on certain specific schools and areas where we do a rugby development, and we haven't got the shotgun approach anymore to try and impress anybody with numbers. That's the important thing. So that is working for us now. Less, more quality. And the big change now is within our so-called developed community, in the inner city area, where we've got an influx of black learners, youth rugby players, where we do have schools with facilities, and we're targeting that now.
Game On Magazine would like to take this opportunity to thank you so much for spending some time with us, Johan. It's been an absolute privilege learning about the development programs of the BBRU. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for the privilege.